The story of Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, unfolds in a bleak, desolate world that has collapsed under the weight of greed, war, and dwindling resources. After a global conflict drained the Earth of its vital oil supply, society disintegrated into chaos. Governments crumbled, law enforcement became a memory, and the once thriving cities turned into barren wastelands where survival is the only law. Now, he drifts across the desert highways as a lone wanderer, clinging only to survival with his beloved V8 Interceptor and his loyal Australian cattle dog by his side. The film opens with narration, recalling the fall of civilization in fragments of black and white footage. To the storyteller, the feral child who recounts this tale years later, the collapse feels like half memory, half myth. All he knows is that people once went to war over fuel, and that those flames consumed the world. The remnants of humanity now fight over scraps of gasoline, the guzzling that powers their machines and keeps them alive in a wasteland where water, food, and mercy are scarce. Max embodies this new world. Hardened, scarred, and nearly silent, he roams the cracked highways scavenging fuel and supplies, never staying in one place long enough to form attachments. His rugged appearance, worn black leather, and cold eyes mark him as a survivor who trusts no one. Yet beneath the tough exterior lies a man still haunted by the loss of his wife and child, the tragedy that turned him from lawman into road warrior. The first moments of action throw us directly into Max's struggle. He is ambushed on the open road by marauders on motorcycles and custom vehicles, wild-eyed savages who live only to plunder. With calm efficiency, Max outmaneuvers them, forcing one attacker to misfire and another to crash in a violent wreck. His dog watches closely, ready to leap into action if needed. After dispatching the threat, Max salvages fuel from a wrecked truck, carefully siphoning every last drop into containers. Fuel has become more precious than gold, and Max treats it with the reverence of a man who knows it is the difference between life and death. Among the attackers is a warrior named Wes, a ruthless man with a fiery temper, a striking red mohawk, and a cruel sense of dominance. Not long after, Max stumbles across a strange sight in the desert, a seemingly abandoned gyrocopter sitting in the sand. Suspicious but hopeful, he approaches, only to discover that the machine has been rigged with a trap. From beneath the ground bursts the eccentric gyro captain, a wiry, talkative man who tries to ambush Max. But Max's loyal dog lunges, forcing the pilot into submission. Caught and helpless, the gyro captain bargains for his life by revealing that he knows the location of a hidden oil refinery, an oasis of fuel guarded by settlers. Skeptical but intrigued, Max spares him, tying him up in the Interceptor as a reluctant guide. When they arrive, Max sees the truth. Beyond the desert ridges lies a fortified compound under siege. Inside, a community of settlers clings desperately to survival, protecting a stockpile of refined fuel. Outside, the marauders circle like wolves, led by a figure as terrifying as he is commanding Lord Humungus. The Humungus is a mountain of a man, his body wrapped in leather straps and chains, his face concealed by a grotesque metal mask that hints at both physical scars and psychological torment. From a distance, Max watches the standoff unfold. The gyro captain, though initially a coward, provides comic relief and insight, showing Max the dynamics of the siege. That night, Max sneaks closer, observing both sides. The settlers are desperate but organized, their walls built from scrap metal, buses, and barricades, their weapons a mix of arrows, spears, and makeshift explosives. Max sees opportunity when a group of settlers attempt to break free but are hunted down by marauders. He intervenes, rescuing a gravely wounded survivor and striking a deal. In exchange for fuel, he will return the man to the compound. But the survivor dies shortly after, and Max finds himself at the mercy of the settlers. Suspicious of his motives, they seize his Interceptor and chain him. Still, his presence sparks debate. Pappagallo recognizes Max's skills and potential value. When the Humungus and his gang return to deliver their ultimatum, tension inside the compound grows unbearable. Wes roars for blood, the feral kid snarls like a wild animal, and the settlers waver between surrender and resistance. Max, ever pragmatic, remains detached until he proposes a deal of his own. he will retrieve a massive tanker truck abandoned nearby. With it, the settlers could haul their fuel north to safety. In return, he demands his car and as much fuel as he can carry. Reluctantly, Papagallo agrees. Under cover of darkness, Max slips out, only to be discovered by marauders. He narrowly avoids detection thanks to the feral kid, who mimics animal sounds to distract the guards. Soon, Max finds the gyro captain again, forcing him to help haul fuel to the truck. Together, they repair the massive rig, dodging raiders along the way. What follows is one of the film's most iconic sequences. Max, behind the wheel of the rumbling tanker, thunders through the marauder camp in a storm of violence, explosions, and relentless pursuit. The thunder of the tanker's engine roars across the wasteland as Max smashes his way through the marauder encampment. His gamble pays off. He drives the rig straight back into the settlers' compound, where its size and power become a symbol of both hope and danger. The settlers cheer at his arrival, but the marauders are not easily deterred. Humungus and Wes regroup, planning their full-scale assault. The fragile truce has shattered, and both sides know that only one can walk away from this desert battlefield. Inside the compound, Max is battered and exhausted but alive. The settlers debate their fate, realizing that Humungus will never allow them to live free if they stay. Papagallo insists that they must flee north to find safety, but their only chance is the tanker filled with precious fuel. To make their escape possible, they must hold back the marauders long enough to launch the convoy. The community prepares for war, reinforcing barricades, sharpening weapons, and steeling themselves for the inevitable onslaught. Max, however, remains detached. He reminds Papagallo that their deal is complete. He delivered the tanker, and now he intends to leave. This cold pragmatism infuriates the settlers, who see him as selfish and heartless. Papagallo calls him a shell of a man, a coward with no purpose beyond survival. The words cut deep, echoing Max's own buried guilt and grief, but outwardly he shows no emotion. He readies his interceptor, determined to head back into the wasteland alone. But fate has other plans. As Max drives away from the compound, Wes spots him and rallies a group of marauders to give chase. The ferocious pursuit ends in disaster. Wes launches his bike like a missile, ramming Max's car off the road. The interceptor flips and crashes, leaving Max bloodied and broken among the wreckage. His loyal dog tries to defend him, but is killed in the struggle, another companion torn away in this merciless world. Max, barely conscious, watches helplessly as his car, his last connection to his past life, is destroyed in an explosion when a trap in the vehicle is triggered. Gyro Captain, who has been circling above in his copter, spots the wreckage and swoops down. Finding Max still alive, though mangled and near death, he drags him back to the settlers' compound. Against all odds, the road warrior endures, patched up by the community he once intended to abandon. His survival hardens something inside him. He realizes that walking away from this fight is no longer possible. He is bound to the settlers, not by loyalty or love, but by circumstance and the faint stirrings of responsibility that remain in his fractured soul. When Max regains his strength, he insists on driving the tanker himself. Papagallo resists, arguing that Max is too injured, but Max's determination prevails. His reasoning is simple. He is the best chance they have. With grim resolve, he climbs into the cab of the massive vehicle, the feral kid clambering aboard with him despite the danger. Around them, the settlers make final preparations. Their compound has been rigged with explosives, a fiery trap designed to obliterate it once they escape. At dawn, the gates burst open. The tanker roars out, accompanied by smaller vehicles filled with settlers who serve as escorts. Immediately, Humungus and his horde surge forward, an avalanche of bikes, spiked cars, and grotesque war machines. The chase begins, a relentless storm of metal and blood across the open desert. What follows is one of the most legendary action sequences in film history. The tanker barrels down the highway, pursued from all sides. Marauders leap onto its sides, hacking at defenses, smashing through windows, and firing crude weapons. Settlers fight desperately from the truck bed, shooting arrows, hurling Molotov cocktails, and battling hand-to-hand against raiders clinging to the tanker's sides. One by one, the defenders fall burned, shot, or thrown beneath the screaming wheels of the marauders' machines. Max grips the wheel with unbreakable focus. His shotgun rests nearby, but ammunition is scarce. He uses the truck itself as his weapon, swerving violently to crush attackers against rocks or hurl them into the sand. The feral kid, fierce and fearless, scrambles across the cab, fending off invaders with primal fury. The gyro captain swoops overhead, dropping makeshift firebombs to scatter the attackers, his eccentric bravery proving vital in the chaos. Lord Humungus watches the battle with cold, calculating eyes, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Wes, driven mad by bloodlust, launches repeated attacks, snarling and screaming as he clings to the tanker like a beast. The violence escalates until the road itself becomes a slaughterhouse of twisted wrecks, shattered bodies, and fire. Inside the cab, Max grows weaker. He is bleeding, exhausted, but refuses to yield. When he reaches for more shells, he realizes the brutal truth: they are nearly gone. The fight has reduced him to pure instinct, his survival bound only to the roaring machine beneath him. The feral kid clutches his arm, terrified yet loyal, refusing to leave his side. The climax comes as Humungus himself charges forward in his monstrous vehicle, colliding head-on with the tanker in a thunderous explosion. Wes, who had leapt onto the rig once more, is crushed in the impact, his screams swallowed by fire and twisted steel. The tanker veers out of control, flipping violently before crashing into the dirt. The marauders, seeing both their leader and his fiercest lieutenant destroyed, scatter in panic, leaving the battlefield strewn with wreckage and silence. Max crawls from the overturned cab, his body battered but unbroken. The feral kid emerges as well, shaken but alive. The real fuel supply was hidden in smaller tankers disguised within their convoy, now far to the north, safely beyond the reach of the marauders. The sacrifice of Max's battle had been a diversion, a decoy mission designed to buy time for the settlers' true escape. Their gamble worked. The refinery has been destroyed, the marauders broken, and the settlers are free to build a new life. Pappagallo lies dead, but leadership passes to the gyro captain, who takes command of the convoy and eventually guides them to the coast. There, as the feral child later recalls, they founded the Great Northern Tribe, a fledgling civilization born from the ashes of the Old World. Max, however, does not join them. True to his nature, he remains a wanderer. The settlers see him as a hero, a savior who bought their future with blood and fire. But Max sees himself differently. He is not their leader, not their father, not their companion. He is simply a man broken by loss, drifting forever through the wasteland. His story ends not with triumph or reunion, but with solitude, his figure fading once more into the desert horizon. And so the legend of the road warrior is passed down by the feral child, who grows to become the leader of his people. To him, Max was more than a man, he was myth, a savior cloaked in black leather, appearing from the dust to deliver hope before vanishing back into the sands. Whether hero or anti-hero, Max becomes a symbol of resilience in a world that has forgotten mercy. The Road Warrior stands as one of the most influential action films ever made, a movie that reshaped how audiences and filmmakers viewed the post-apocalyptic genre. George Miller built a story that is at once brutal and mythic, reducing the world to its rawest essentials: fuel, survival, and the will to endure. Every character reflects a truth of this wasteland: Pappagallo's idealism, the settler's fragile hope, the gyro captain's opportunism, and Humungus's savage dominance. In the center is Max, stripped of his humanity yet unable to ignore the needs of others, even if he never admits it. The film's action sequences remain legendary. The final tanker chase is not just thrilling, it is a masterclass in practical stunt work, a ballet of fire, steel, and chaos that still feels dangerous today because it was real. At the same time, the framing as a story told by the feral child gives the entire film the texture of myth. Max becomes less a man and more a figure of legend, appearing from the dust to save a people before vanishing again. In the end, The Road Warrior is not only about survival in a dying world, but about how legends are born in the ashes of civilization.